link. Hi, Christopher.
What's
How are
up? How
you?
you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you. I love your gray. That's such a nice color on your
Thank you.
walls.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I was just shouting out everybody who's tuning in. We got people all over the US so far. So far, I've seen all US.
Cool.
We usually get a couple people from other countries, but it's pretty late when you're outside the US at this
Yeah.
point. So all right, so I told everybody that they're in for a treat because we are going to be talking about something rather juicy tonight.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
We're going to talk about abstinence. Or maybe we should say it's dry. No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I got some jokes.
The topic. Okay. Oh, we got Canada. Okay, see, I spoke too soon. We got Canada. So we got two countries representing, because they're still in their time zone depending on where they are in the country.
Right.
All right, so we are getting into abstinence, and I have a couple questions. I actually put some thought into this time. I usually like to wing it, but I
That's
wanted to
good.
really make sure I grilled you. Oh, we got Fiji in the house.
Oh,
Nice.
that's dope.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're just gonna jump right into it. Well, actually, no. Before we do, would you like to introduce yourself for Australia? Okay, now y'all making stuff up.
I
Y'all
know,
really
right?
Fiji, Australia? Waiting until marriage to the baby making thing at 44. Nice. Okay, so before you answer the question I just asked you, since everybody is very, very on it, I love it. They're usually not this engaged out the gate. Everyone's awake. If you're team abstinence, type in team abstinence in the comments, and I want to see how many people are team abstinence. Okay. And if you are not team abstinence, you could say no way. Or an emoji that shows your facial expression when you hear the word abstinence. Okay, so either team abstinence or whatever expression the emoji represents. But let them know just a little bit about you. Oh, we got some team abstinence in the house. Okay.
Yeah. So my name is Christopher King. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I am first and foremost, I'm a child of God, right? I'm a Christian. That's something I really find my identity in. But outside of that, what I do is not outside of it, but what I do, I'm an attorney, I'm a trainer, I'm an artist, I'm an author. I do a whole bunch of different things, right? Act, model. I kind of do it all a little bit, right? So, hey, that's a little bit of who I am. My biggest thing is just, I'm trying to pay it forward. I'm trying to, make up men, make up kings, right? And then just give back everything that God has kind of given to me. He's invested in me in a whole lot of different areas. And I just want to pay it forward. I want to pay it forward and I want to die on empty. So that's just a little bit about me in 30 seconds or so. But y'all about to find some more stuff out. So
I love that. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the comments, but there were way more team abstinence. I think we got like one emoji and one I'm trying. So pretty interesting. I was not expecting that ratio. So really cool stuff. Okay, first question.
Let's
When we
shoot.
talk,
Hey, we're gonna keep it real. That's why we're here, right?
we're gonna keep it a buck. Okay, so first question is, I feel like mine's so close compared to yours. Let me just back off of it a little bit. In 2022,
Okay.
abstinence is a word that is almost like a dirty word. It's like laughable in certain circles. Okay, if you say abstinence, I've heard that it is completely unrealistic. I have been told that I am delusional if I think that men, can or will abstain. I have been told that it is next to impossible, if not totally impossible. I have been told I don't understand the male body and the hormones that rage. And so I've been told so many things when I have advocated for abstinence. So my first question is abstinence an unrealistic expectation in 2022? Is that something that we've just grown out of and can't do anymore?
No. The simple question is, I don't think so. I believe it's very possible, right? I I think it's rare, right? I think you don't see it a lot. I do think the people that are absent or do kind of walk that out, they're not very, I guess, big into like the media and kind of showing people X, Y, and Z and stuff like that. The first time, if we're being honest, the first time we really heard somebody doing that, like especially people that look like us, is the whole Megan Good and Devon Franklin. That's the first time we really kind of heard people kind of promoting it in such a way. And that's relatively new, right? So we haven't, I mean, and you have Russell Wilson and Sierra. So you don't really, there's not like a whole bunch of people just saying, oh, I'm abstinent, X, Y, Z, this is how I live my life. But it is possible. I'm a firm believer on it's possible. Is it easy? No, not at all. But it's definitely possible. But that's with anything, right? Becoming an attorney, it's possible. It's not easy. Getting to the NFL, it's possible. It's not probable, but it's, you know, so great things in this world, right? Being a millionaire, doing whatever, are not necessarily, it's a rare thing, right? It's not always easy and everybody necessarily can't do
Right.
it, but it is possible.
So when people are saying it's not possible, they should only speak for themselves.
That's kind of what it is, if we're being honest, right? Even when I was, you know, pursuing the NFL and everything like that, you hear so many people that, you know, maybe it didn't work out for them, that they was like, man, that ain't gonna work, that ain't gonna happen, right? Because they feel like they couldn't do it, they didn't do it, whatever the reason may be. People love to, I guess, project what their failures or their, you know,
Mm.
aspirations or whatever the insecurities on other people just because it didn't happen for you, right?
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you, man, it's possible.
Oh,
It's
okay.
possible. I'm here to tell you it's possible. Not that I'm
So
perfect
y'all,
by any means, but it is possible.
okay, because I wasn't gonna tell your business, but he is telling y'all he is team abstinence, and it is possible. And he is a grown man, as you can see. He's got all his teeth. He's fully developed. He's gone through puberty, and it's possible. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I have to give a huge shout out to Brown Wasabi who bought the first badge. Thank you, baby. We eating dinner tomorrow night again. Okay, we got another
Hey,
check. Okay, all right. So thank you so much, love, for that. I appreciate that. I definitely agree. I think that when someone believes something with it is their belief system, um, they really do believe that, and therefore they speak it as though it is truth. By the way, guys, because I do see questions being dropped, there is a little icon at the bottom that has a plus sign in it. No, that's the wrong one. That's for adding people. My bad. There is a it looks like a talk bubble with a question mark in it. That's very appropriate for a question. Hit that button if you want to submit a question. What that does is it holds it nice and still, like on a piece of paper, as opposed to the river of comments that float away and then we don't get a chance to see it. Okay? So I'll do my best to scroll through the comments at the end for the things that I've missed. But as far as actual questions you want to ask, um, yeah. Okay. Somebody said Jewish men don't even touch women. It's a part of staying abstinent. And that's a great question. I'm actually going to write down something I just thought about that I wanted to ask. B. Nell, sorry, I try to read it fast before it goes. Thank you for the next badge. Um, all right. Oh, I
oh,
can't
you
even
got the
read my.
badges coming, huh?
Oh my goodness! Thank you, thank you.
I need to get like
Look,
you.
when you a content creator full time. Look, you
Hey,
survive on these badges.
I feel you.
So thank you guys. Okay, so if you have a question, drop it in that question box, and then we will answer it towards the end. Okay. All right. So as I was saying, I think a lot of people do project that. I had to really be careful and protect myself in all aspects of life when people would try to say things and put them into the universe, as we say. And so I believe words have power. The Bible says there's power of life and death in the tongue. And so I'll do it playfully so I don't look like a psychopath, but I will reject and retract statements that are made for me. Like people used to say, oh, wouldn't that be funny if your daughter was a tomboy since you're so feminine? I was like, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. She will be feminine, and she's the most feminine little girl ever. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Okay, y'all showing off tonight. Thank you. This is a record for out the gate. So if that's something that you want to do, or if you choose not to do it or don't think you can do it, maybe don't critique someone else or put that onto them because you might put some doubt into their mind. Okay, so here's my next question.
Let's go.
There is a theory, not me. I'm just telling you what the streets say, okay? Let me just
Okay.
sip my water. Some people say that a person who's practicing abstinence is not doing it by choice. What do you have to say for that? Okay, here's the accusation. Oh, yeah, he's probably some dude living in his mama's basement, pimply faced kid, can't get a date to save his life. Of course he's being abstinent.
Right.
Is that the case for everyone who's being
I'm gonna
abstinent?
keep it a buck. I do think there is maybe a small community of people, um, that is the case to a certain extent, right?
I
Because
just
if we're being
took a.
honest,
I was even trying to be funny. Sorry.
it's good, it's good. To a certain extent, because I think like if we're being honest, sex is very easy to get nowadays, right? Just in generally speaking. Um,
Accessible.
right, right. So I think there's a community of people that they really can't necessarily, and it's not really a choice. It's just by lack of opportunity. But me, in my case, I can guarantee you that's not the case, right? It's not because of a lack of opportunity, right? It's literally making a decision, and then I think people can appreciate it more, right? When you do have the look, when you do know how to be comfortable around women, talk to women, be romantic, and do all these different things, and project that masculine energy that women just are attracted to, I think now it becomes a discipline and a choice, right? And I think when women see that, they're saying, oh man, that's a man that's disciplined, right? And he's making that decision. And it's not just like, oh, well, he just doesn't have the opportunity. No, it's
Yeah.
not that case.
And I love that you said the word discipline because that is the perfect segue to say this. There is, I don't know if you've heard this, but there are women who, when they hear a man, forget abstinence, okay? When they hear that he hasn't impregnated a woman yet, they are highly suspicious.
Right.
So, throwing this out there, ladies and gentlemen, you can look at someone not getting a woman pregnant as being suspicious, like, is he shooting blanks? Or, just throwing this one out there, he could be extremely responsible when he does partake, or choosing to abstain altogether, which is 100% effective birth control. What
Yeah.
do you think about this mindset? I literally did not know that was a thing until I heard it was a thing.
Oh, all that's the thing. So I think it goes based on like the extremes, right? So like me, you can go from now, you got baby mamas, right? And you got, you have kids and stuff like that. And then you go from, yeah, you just kind of doing your thing. You're not really abstinent. You're just in the middle. And then you got me. Well, then I say you have abstinence, but then I'm a virgin as well. So when people hear that, then they're like, ain't no way. Something got to be wrong. Something got to be up.
Something
It's a
not
problem. It's an
something's
issue.
not up.
Right, right.
Like
And look, that's a reasonable concern. I get it, right? It's rare, especially with the look and everything like that. You're like, no way, right? It's unbelievable. But I think that's why God is kind of giving me that assignment because it is unbelievable and it's hard to kind of grasp. And it's like, no, if a man like that can do it, okay. I mean, it's possible, right? And these kind of men do exist because I know one of my brothers I did a live with Dozier, like he's the same way, right? So it's not we don't have a whole bunch of us out here, but we're definitely out here and we're definitely like living.
so this is because I wasn't gonna tell all your business. Since you didn't put it all
I
out
figured it
there.
was gonna come up.
Because I meant to ask you first, and since I forgot to ask you, I wasn't going to bring it up. I was going to let you make the decision. But I'm totally glad you did, because not only is he team abstinence, he is in the V club. Okay, V is for victory, and your girl. I said I did not want to be intimate
Hey,
before marriage.
is you have earpods? It's keep going like in and out. I don't know if y'all
Really?
realize. Yeah, so
Okay,
like
let's see.
I'll hear you and then it kind of.
Hold on. Does that improve the sound quality?
That's a whole lot better actually.
Okay, good. We already got the age question. How old are you? So we'll let you just
Yeah, I'm
answer that.
28. I'm 28 and I turned 29 in July.
28, turning 29 in July. So you guys have a little bit of time to save up for his birthday gift. Okay, feel free to cash app him for his birthday. But for me, it was a really big deal to keep my virginity. What did he say? Hold on one second. Oh, got you. Okay. It was a big deal for me to keep mine. And actually, I would have waited all the way up until marriage, but I had a really, really stupid insecurity like right before the wedding. And so I actually broke my own rule, but fortunately, it was with my husband. So
Like
he
right
got
before
this.
the marriage?
What's that?
Like right before y'all actually got married?
Yeah, like during the engagement. It was really stupid. I'm not even gonna admit what it was. The enemy got in my head and made me have this insecurity, and it was an insecurity about myself.
You
And
see,
so it
you
was
say
really
that, but I feel like that's when it's gonna be the hardest, to be honest. I mean, I don't know, I'm not engaged, but I
okay.
feel
So you know
like
what? Actually, maybe it'll be helpful if I just tell. Okay,
maybe, yeah.
this is what's embarrassing. I wasn't tempted to have intimacy.
Okay.
What I was wanting to have was affirmation and validation.
Okay.
I picked somebody who was extremely disciplined, extremely confident, and knew where the line was that he couldn't cross. So if the line he couldn't cross was here, he stayed way over here. So what that did to somebody who was really insecure at 23 was like, well,
You thought
dang,
it was, yeah, you thought it was
why
you.
is it this easy for you to abstain? Okay. So literally, had I not had the insecurity, I would have been able to say I made it all the way across the finish line.
Mm.
But for whatever, this is how dumb my strategy was. Maybe I'll just see if he's turned on, and then I could just turn it back off,
Yeah.
and be like,
Good luck with that.
it didn't work that way. I
Not at
was
all.
like, okay, you passed the test. Cool, I can turn you on. So dumb. That's why I say this is important conversation to have, because have these conversations. And, I don't think you should torment yourself. I think it's also good to let the person know, look, don't get it, don't.
Sorry, I read that comment.
To say, don't get it twisted. I definitely am attracted to you. This is just what I'm willing and not willing to do, because I don't want to, I think communication is really necessary, especially in those situations, because I think sometimes when you don't talk about something, because I could just open my mouth and say, hey, are you attracted to me? He could be like, heck yeah. But I didn't find out till later that he was like, no, I literally had to keep you like this because,
right.
I ain't trying to, whatever. So have that conversation. And the other thing is, you guys don't just assume that they're not heterosexual because they're not trying to jump your phones.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to admit this. You can pass any questions. But has your sexuality ever been questioned by the sheer decision to be abstinence?
Yes, most definitely. Especially in undergrad, being in college. Yeah, that was like the rumor going around with me, right?
Wow.
And I'm so thankful that even in my like high school, God kind of built me to be very to be able to stand alone, right? I'm the type of person where when I tell you I really don't care what people think, like I'm gonna do it, especially if God told me to do it, right?
That part.
Man, I can care if the whole world is against me, man. As long as I know he's telling me, I'm good, right? So in high school I had that a little bit, but in college it like really came at me, and I was like, all right, cool. If I'm gonna do this by myself, bam, I just would do it by myself. So that's what I did until I think it was my sophomore year. God sent me a group of men that like was on that plan with me, and I was like, all right, bet this one I'm gonna do life with, right? And even to this day, they're some of my best friends. So yeah. I mean, it comes with it, right?
Yeah.
And that's with anything, not just abstinence or being a virgin or anything like that. When you stand for God, in certain areas and certain fields of influence, there's gonna be people that are gonna come at you, right? We just had the whole Russell Wilson is a simp thing and is a whack guy. Like, if you live in the right way and you honoring God and how you live and everything you do, man, there's gonna be people, especially in culture in the world, that's gonna be coming at you. God made us to be warriors, especially as men. So I ain't backing down. If you want to go toe to toe with me, best believe like I'm coming with it, right? I'm not backing down from nobody.
I love that. And even with the comments, some people are being playful about it, but other people are they're pretty emphatic. There's no way he's a virgin. And I want to talk about this. The disbelief that somebody could have self-discipline. Really think about what you're saying. What you're saying is, I think this person is capable of disciplining their physical body as far as working out, eating healthy, what have you. I think this person is disciplined enough to go to school, make it through school, pass the bar exam, is capable of writing a book. You said book, right? You wrote a book. Is capable of starting another business. but he's not capable of controlling the rest of his anatomy.
Right.
So, yeah, we have a 42-year-old virgin. I love it. She said, I get disbelief all the time. So, and they said that's a reflection of their own lack of self-discipline. It's the projection for me.
Right.
It's the projection for me, because when people hear things that sound incredible, it's one thing to say, wow, how incredible. It is another to say,
Doubt it.
You have to be lying because it's not possible. It's difficult to say, no, I just really struggle with that. It's the same thing for me when I say I get up at 4:30 in the morning. Ain't no way, blah, 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 blah. But that's what works for me. I want to start my time early where I can get in my time with the Lord without being interrupted, without having all these distractions and noises and things like that. Get in there, get my gym before my daughter even wakes up so that I don't have to, worry about slacking up. But to somebody else, that literally seems like you asked them to go to the moon and back.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, you just go to bed earlier. Like, I'm not a magical creature that like magically wakes at the crack of dawn. I just go to bed at a time that will allow me to do that. So it's really interesting. The other thing that I want to say is that when it comes to women, there is a certain level of arrogance that says, if you can resist me,
I know where he's
going. Must be
yeah.
something wrong with you, which I told my story on purpose to tell it was my insecurity, okay? But it is the arrogance to say that if Christopher does not have the inability to resist me and my sexual charm, he must be on the other team. He must be a member of the other team.
Yeah. And the weird part is because, like, it's not that I don't want to have sex. I mean, like, at all. Like, I really do, right? So it's not like a lack of desire or a lack of want to. It's just more so I have, love for God, and it's something that he's called me to kind of walk out. And I want to see what God has planned for that, right? And I love that, his plan and stuff like that, more than I love being in that moment, right? Because that moment is going to come and it's going to go, right? Yeah. And I don't want to ever look back and just wonder, man, like, what if I would have finished? What if I would have finished that race? Like, who knows what God could have just been like, all right, since you do that, like, I got you, right? And I still think God's grace is sufficient. So anybody that, has done that or anything like that, God's grace is sufficient, no doubt. But what happens when we get all sold out for God, right? What kind of life will we live, right? And my whole thing is I want to see. I got to see. I got to find out.
No, it's so true. My daughter literally said earlier today, by the way, there's comments asking if you're married and stuff. Can you guys make sure you put that in the question box so that we can answer that? Sorry, I just dropped my pen. My daughter said today, she just looking and she goes, Mom, this is so cool. She's like, it's amazing that we have access to the creator of the universe. She's only 10. She just turned 10. She goes, we have access to the creator of the universe, and we can tap into his power, and you do it like on a daily basis. And I see what happens. And she goes, and that's really sad that not everybody understands that they can do that. And I'm just sitting here like, because she sees me. If we need something paid, I'm like, Lord, please bring a client. Boop, client will come that day. Lord, I'm struggling with this. I don't want to pay for this course. Someone out of the blue. Can I do this and just you be my case study? I'm going to give you this couple $1,000 product for free, because like, she sees it over and over and over and over and over again. And as you mentioned, and I'll do the verse, he says he wants to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or even fathom. So if your desire was for this, God's like, take it all the way and like send it on the rocket ship to the moon. That's what I have planned. I want to say this. One of the things that, I told you I made a argument for abstinence on YouTube. It's one of my couple first videos I did. Let's just be practical, okay? And you can throw in however many you think of. If you're my husband and we're both virgins going in, that means there's nobody out there who has experienced you. I'm sorry, but that's sexy as heck. No woman is like, I know what you getting, sis. that's kind of hot.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. It's something like, so okay. This is kind of like a good example, I think, and my guys can appreciate this. So it's like seeing Beyonce and knowing like, man, like that's a woman, you know, women love to be like, and dudes want to be next to, right? Or just have, but to know like I don't even have like I can't even get access to that, right? But you see it and you like, man, that's next level. But like everybody can't get access, and it's something attractive and amazing
That
about having
exclusivity.
something that everybody wants to a certain extent, but nobody can really get, right? I love that idea. So for
Yeah.
me, and I think that's why it's also important. Don't get me wrong, the abstinence stuff and waiting and all that stuff is great, and that's important. But I think it's also important to develop all these other things, right? Especially as a man, right? It's not enough just to say, "Oh, I'm absent. I'm twiddling my thumbs." No, you got to make sure your body right. You got to make sure your intelligence, your emotional intelligence. You got to make sure you got to know how to talk to women, be comfortable around women, and exude that masculine energy. And if you can do all these things, now you're desirable by really everybody. So that guy when they're like, "Oh, you know, I want a Michael B. Jordan or the Idris Elba or whatever it is," and I'm like, "Nah, like I'm that too, but I live this way." So now it's like, oh man,
Yes.
I can't lose now, right?
It's a cut above.
Right.
I never understood the world's way of thinking where everyone was so like chill about it, like almost like passing partners around. Oh, I don't like you anymore. You could sleep with him. Like, I think we're meant to be territorial. I mean, we're created like God, and God is a jealous God. So I just think that's just so odd. Like, I don't want to be in a room where I have to be like, babe, okay, so I smashed that guy. Like, that's just awkward to me, you know, or
Yeah.
you're moving in circles, and just the practicality of it. The other thing is that like I said before, you're risking having kids out of wedlock. And as much as people want to say it's no big deal if you have kids with someone else, it is a big deal. Even if it's not a toxic relationship with the ex, I'll just give one example that people don't like. They don't like to think about the logistics. When you have someone by another person, most people don't just give up the rights to that kid.
Right.
So you don't have that other kid 24/7. That means that if you want to do something special, go to Six Flags, go to whatever, you have to try to coordinate on a date that you have that kid. Or if you want to travel, you have to there's a lot of logistical stuff that happens, and people are acting so flippant, like, oh, it's no big deal. There's so much that goes into that. Not to mention, if the kid is adorable and sweet, and you guys end up having kids together as your current family, now this kid feels left out because he's missing out on the stuff that happens on the weekend. He's not there, and then the siblings picture. Like, we have just created
There's so many
much
variables.
chaos.
Right. There's so many variables. And look, it definitely can be successful, but like I said, it's just more variables that go into it, right? And then now you got to say, oh, well, is the baby daddy instilling certain things into the child or completely different things? What about the new guy? Is he doing like, and then it gets very complicated. Now it's possible, right? Like I said, God's grace is efficient. But like moving forward, you want to be as, you know, you want to put yourself in the best situation, right?
I think that's where people get it confused. I like that you clarified. It's not that we're saying you're just screwed, just, man, forget it, call it a day. If you have a kid either out of wedlock or you're divorced and you have kids, that we're not saying that. We're saying if you have a chance to have a fresh sheet of paper and you have a choice to have a crumpled up piece of paper with everything written on it, why would you proactively go into the situation already eliminating your odds? That's like when I say to people about fitness. This isn't about shaming people who are out of shape. It's about just being practical. If you understand that the more fit you are, the larger number of people, the larger pool you have to choose from, because not everybody is just going to look at your personality from across the room. They're going to see your figure from across the room. So that person who maybe would have liked your personality didn't even get a chance to meet you because they're, you know, the package. So it's just...
Man, you're right. You're right.
Ugh, okay.
And if we're being honest, like, and this goes with everything, not just, you know, having a kid or anything, but like, there's certain things that if you're not working at, or if you're not growing at, or you're not doing or not doing whatever, you're not even gonna get access to, and nobody's gonna tell you. It's just you're just not going to get access to, right?
We'll never
So
know.
like if you, for example, like if you're a dude and you completely out of shape and you don't care, you know, how you look, how the suit fit and X, Y, and Z, there are some women that's not even gonna look, like literally not even look your way, right? And yeah, you can say it's a bad, you can say whatever, but that's the reality of it, right? But you get that suit, you get the way it fits, you get that body right, the way it cuts and everything like that. Man, you're gonna see when you step out the room, man, that whole notion that, oh, women don't shoot they shot, man, that's coming from dudes that ain't doing it right. Because y'all, you know, obviously women, y'all definitely do, right? But it just, you gotta be moving a
It's
certain way
different.
for that.
Yes.
Right.
And what the women will do is they're like deer, you know, when you have to hunt the deer, the deer will come as the deer and we'll put ourselves right in front of the target, like
Shoot. Yeah, yeah.
So technically we didn't shoot our shot, but here's the gun, you know, the whatever that's called, yeah. So somebody said it can work. And so I'm gonna say this again, because maybe they jumped on and they didn't hear the part we said. We're not saying it's not possible. It is possible for me to win a race with one leg, one arm, blindness.
It's possible.
Gas, you know, just all kinds of ailments. It is possible. We're saying if you had a choice to run able-bodied, why would you aim for something else? That's what we're saying. So we're not disparaging. Shoot, I'm separated right now from my husband because I was foolish and walked away 7 years ago. So clearly I'm no place to judge, nor am I judging. I'm simply saying this is a thought process. And when I was single, I had an opportunity to date someone with a kid, and I was pressured by my friends, give him a chance, you know, da 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 da. But logically, I was like, I'm a virgin with no kid, obviously, with no kids. Why would I want to start the process with
It's a fair
someone
point.
who already out the bag has this? And I got so much heat for that, for being judgmental and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, this is my life's path. And
And
now,
everybody has that right to choose what they want to do. It's
that
just that,
part.
right?
So would I ever advise someone to go out and seek someone who already has kids? No. If you're single with no kids, I strongly recommend that you stay in your lane. This is the other reason why. This is practical. Everyone wants to talk about the glossy. What it could be. Yes, it could. But
It could be
understand
the
what
best
you're
decision
taking.
of your life, right?
Right.
Or it could be the
Understand what
worst.
you're taking on. If a
Yeah.
woman has, let's say the woman is it's her first child and he's already had one. There's a difference between your first baby. Don't come for me. There's a difference between your first baby and your second, third, fourth, fifth. That first baby, you're like, everything you're paying attention to, everything is so exciting. And as much as you're excited for the second kid, you never can duplicate the type of excitement that first, because it's your first. So this woman, let's just say hypothetically, she's about to have their first baby. He's not going to have, he can't fake it. He cannot have the same exact emotions, even if he wants to. So I'm sick of people trying to make it seem like the exception is the goal. I'm here to keep it 100.
No, I
It's
think.
different.
Yeah.
It's just different. Okay, so the next question. Sorry, I get so fired up.
No, we good. Let's get it. Next one.
All right, so actually, I didn't even realize I went into number 3. So the benefits of abstaining. I think we've kind of rattled them off. A lot of them. Someone saying they disagree. I don't even know what could be disagreed with, because it's physically impossible to have a reaction about a second as equal to the first. That does not mean you cannot be excited about the second. I've had 2 kids and I was ecstatic about both. It is not the same as the first. Love you, daughter. It's just not the same. That's the whole point. It's the first.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how is, let's do some tips. Let's just say, that you decide you want to abstain, whether you're still a virgin or you want to start moving forward, because maybe you heard this live and you're like, you know what, she makes a good point. He makes a good point. Let me start. Let's just say you want to start. I believe that abstinence does not start when two people are naked, breathing on each other, sweat dripping, and going, I'm not going to put it in. I think that abstinence starts like way before that point.
Yeah. If
I think a
you,
lot of people try to abstain when they're like, gah.
yeah, you setting yourself up for failure. Yeah, but I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real with everybody, right? Especially in college and undergrad when I was younger and stuff. Man, I put myself in some horrible situations, right? To where I was literally, like you just said, a move from like going to the other side, right?
A
But
sneeze.
man, I had this. Right. And I'm gonna be honest, I had this one experience, right? And I can remember it like a T. I was in the bed and whatever like that, and like in the corner of the room, right, the top corner of the room, I felt the spirit, I felt the Holy Spirit was just like, man, don't do it. I got something for you, right? And like I felt it so strong, I literally had to just stop everything I was doing, right? And I was like, man, okay, I gotta stop, right?
That's a blocker for sure.
And like that kind of carried me and kind of saved me through that because I was like, I couldn't like go forward with that knowing that like he was literally like right there, you know what I mean? And that's just for me, right? Like to each his own, but like you cannot put yourself in those situations because it's really going to be hard. And I can only imagine if you've been doing it, like you know what I mean? Like you, not that it's not possible, but you know what I mean? It's like getting close to the fire and be like, oh, I'm not gonna get burned. Well, you might not. I mean, but you're not putting yourself in the
You sure
best
don't smell like
situation
smoke.
too. Right.
Right. And I think that's a great point. I had so a guy that I dated before I got married, he ended up marrying he actually got married twice. So he got married after that and then divorced and married again. And they're still together, been together for a long time. But they both decided they wanted to abstain. Neither of them obviously were virgins. And I think it was her first marriage though, his second, but they were not both, I don't believe they were both. He wasn't a virgin for sure, and I don't think she was, but she wanted to have practice abstinence. So it was perfect because neither one of them, because I asked him, we're friends, so I asked him these questions when I found out their story. Neither one of them had to convince the other person, because we can get into that too, okay? That one person who was in it and the other. Personally, I don't think it works when only one person is team abstinence because you're fighting your own self.
Oh, not at all. It would never work. You're
trying to fight the other
it would never work. Because
right.
Once the day you're human, you're going to get weak sometimes, right? And once you get weak, that person will be like, all right, cool, right? And they're going to be like, and not that they're just doing it out of like evil intent, but if that person can't hold you accountable when you get weak and vice versa, right? Like there's been times when, you know, the woman I was dating wanted to do it and I was like, no, we can't do that. You're not doing that, right? And there's been times in my flesh, I was like, man, I really want to. She was like, nope, I'm holding you to that standard, right? And we ain't going that far. So y'all both have to be on the same page, right? It's kind of like the same thing, just in a different aspect of like being a believer and believing, you know, other things, right?
Yeah.
If you not like, hey, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, X, Y, Z, yada yada yada, then we can't do nothing with that, right? Because there's gonna come a time where it's gonna be either left or right.
That part. No, I totally agree, and I think that the plan. So first thing, make sure you're both on the same page. And he was saying it was really dope because they both said it, but they had already come to the conclusion on their own. So it was awesome. Neither one had to convince each other. Hey, Christine. Neither one had to convince each other, but they also had ground rules. Because I asked him, I was like, well, how did you avoid that situation? Because like I said, you don't want to wait until you're sweaty and, you know, one sneeze away from entering her. He said that their rule was he would not cross her threshold. So he could drive
like
her
in a house?
The house.
Okay.
He could drive her. I know that sounds like a metaphor. He could drive her home and walk her to the doorstep, but he would not cross that threshold. And I think that what happens is the more you're in denial, the more vulnerable you are. Mm. It's kind of like being in a cage with a lion. You can delude yourself to say, well, I could just stand outside the cage. Okay, well, maybe I can lean up against the cage. You know, you think of a cage, they can still maul you from that. You know, I could just stand in the doorway, or I could just, maybe I'll just lay on the floor next to.
Yeah, it's like, closer and closer.
Right. Or maybe I'll just put food down so he wants to eat that instead of me. Like, why would you even put yourself in that situation? But I think that the more you are realistic about your vulnerability, the less vulnerable you become. So if you feel, well, I could just come to the house Come on, let's break it down. You go to the house. What are you going to do? No one's going to stand in the hallway leaning against the wall. You're going to sit on the couch. You're going to get comfortable. Now you're going to sit close. Now you're going to start holding each other. My dad had this beautiful thing. He said, if you don't want to have sex with someone, don't be somewhere where you can have sex with someone.
Makes sense.
So if you think you can go by yourself with someone who is fine, because obviously you're not going to be with them unless they're fine, hopefully. Someone that you find attractive, you're going to be sitting comfortably on a couch. Because I know me, I like wearing sweats or yoga pants if I'm going to be chilling on a couch. So now I'm wearing tight stuff, easy access stuff. Next thing you know, the back rub turns into, oh God, how do we get here? So people need to be realistic. And when I was dating, people thought that was like the stupidest thing. I'm not like what do they say? Like, I'm not a predator. What do you mean you can't come inside?
Right.
Hard boundaries.
I will say this. I think it also depends on you and the person you're dating. Everybody's boundaries are different. That's why it has to be a discussion, right? Some people can't go into the house. Some people can't kiss. Some people can't do, like, you know what I mean? But it depends on everybody, right? Everybody has different boundaries, and that has to be a conversation, right? That's kind of extreme, the whole no house thing. But hey, to each his own, right? Like, it's like to each his own. So you gotta know what works for you, and you gotta be honest, really honest with yourself, and be like, hey, I can't do that, or yeah, you know, that's no problem. That's no issue with me. Everybody's boundaries is different, and you gotta be able to respect the boundaries of that person.
Yeah, I'm very honest with myself. No house. Because I think some people are just very. Let me not get myself in trouble.
Comfortable.
Sure, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. I need to stay at the coffee house. That's where I need to stay. I need to stay at the coffee house. We can go to my parents. They're not even in the state, but we can go to my parents' house. We can sit on their couch. But what we're not going to do is go inside a house. We are not. Yeah. We are not. Y'all, look, I played the fifth. Okay. This is the other thing, though. As a woman, I think this is also the difference. If I had $1 for every guy who said that they would respect my boundaries, let's just say I wouldn't need Instagram badges, okay? I would be set. People get offended. I'm not a predator. What are you implying? Rah, rah. You have enough times where somebody violates. And as a woman, you are small. Well, typically, some of these women, maybe not, but maybe the guys aren't big. Okay, but either way, typically the woman is smaller and less strong than him. And so you have someone who can overpower you. That's a very scary situation to be in. And I had this really candid conversation with my private Facebook group. And I cannot tell you how many men thought that saying no was a game. This is this was 2020 when we had this conversation. This is not like in 1942. People in 2020, it was like 2020 or 2021, were literally saying, oh, I think that some women want to have sex, but they're too shy and they don't want to give up their good girl image. So it's my job to, basically what they were describing was force myself on them. And we were like, where is that okay?
I think
men were serious.
I think it got, like, there's somewhere where, like, it got lost of, like, exuding, like, masculine energy and taking charge, right? And showing that, for example, you know, Hit says, you go 80, she go 20, right? So somewhere along the line, that 80 was like, no, I'm just going to do the whole 100, right? So it's like, nah, like, you got to, like, you have to be able to go to 80, because obviously if you're just too passive, like, no woman's going to be attracted to her. No one's going to like that. But at that 80, you have to stop, period. And if she don't come down to 20, you just go, all right, well, it is what it is, right?
Thank you. I had to break it down this way. I said, if you, because we know low first base, second base moves, right? If you take her shirt and you try to pull it down and she goes,
stop right there.
Her not going 20%.
You might as well just leave at that point. Like, don't even play with that, right? That's nothing to play with. So no, I feel you.
I'm so serious. I was like, because I don't know if you could say this on Instagram, but I'm thinking, do you guys not know the definition of date? RAPE. I mean, clear. this one guy had to kick him out of the group because this is what this man said. He said, I don't take no for an answer. The only answer I take is her getting up and walking out of the door. I said,
red flag. But that's that's the problem, because now, like you just said, women are, you know, typically smaller and obviously weaker, like physically. So a lot of women are going to feel intimidated to just get up and do that, right? Because they don't
yes.
know how you might react. You might flip out. You might be crazy, because there are some crazy people in this
Or
world,
they
right?
were having fun.
So
They just
no,
didn't have sex.
I agree. I agree completely. And I think as men, you know, God made us this way to be, you know, stronger and stuff for a reason. But with that, it comes with the responsibility of not using that and you taking advantage of that, right? We were created this way to strong and be protective of our women, not to use and abuse that, right? But I know a lot of men that just haven't learned the right way, right? And if they never learn the right way, then it's hard for them to live out that way.
And you can understand now why there is a hard and fast rule for me. No house. No house. Because you just, some people, you think you know a person, you think you know a person, you think you know a person. And all it takes is one time. And that is a very scary thought where you're like, how close am I to a knife, 911, what have you, whoop-de-whoop. So that's what I said. As a woman, it's just different. Is it inconvenient? Yes, because you can't Netflix and actually chill. But you know what? Maybe you always have a friend over. Maybe you always double date if you just really need to be somewhere. But if you don't want to have sex, don't be in a place where a normal non-psychopath will try, because obviously you can be anywhere if someone tries it. But that, I just say hard and fast rules. But there was something else that we were saying. Be on the same page with the other person. Both of you have to want to be abstinent. Decide where you're going to stop, because even with abstinence, like some people might say, well, oral's okay. And not, you really have to break this down.
And be very, very vocal and very intentional. Be like, nah, this is good for me. This is not good for you. Okay. You say, all right, cool. Like, you got to have that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, I'm going to say this. I do feel like it's wrong to, like, just assume somebody's, like, boundaries is one thing. And then when they get there, then you, like, blowing up at them as, like, oh, X, Y, and Z, this, and this, right? Like, no, like, we need to have that discussion of, like, where's those hard boundaries, right? So if there's anything even getting close, it's like, all right, cool. It's off, right?
Yes.
Versus me getting to the boundary and then all of a sudden you flipping out, like, and then now I feel like I did something wrong and I don't want you to make it feel like, oh, like I'm trying to do this. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
we got to be very vocal and very intentional about that.
And I feel like even just hearing you say that, I'm not negating it at all. So period. It also shows why, if we just avoid this crap altogether, we don't have to worry about this. Because this is my thing. If I have a frozen pizza that I'm trying to cook, right? And I preheat the oven, I get out the little pizza, you know,
warm it up,
thingy,
you know,
right? Do all the prep work. I don't want to just sit there and
I want to eat pizza.
Right. Like,
right.
I'm going to cook it and I'm just going to take it out and just sit it on the counter. Like, for me, don't heat up the engine if we ain't finna drive somewhere. I would rather sip my little water and have my little dry piece of toast than you gonna give me a big old, you know, slab of barbecue ribs and I can't have, you know, just
right.
No,
I feel you.
toast.
Don't even tease yourself like that, huh?
Yeah, I'm very. Don't start the engine. You ain't going nowhere. So what do you do? I would like you. We keep it 100, and I love that you're keeping it a buck. Okay,
yeah,
come on here and be like, praise the Lord.
No, I gotta keep it real.
Okay, we saved and sanctified. But we still live on the earth. Okay, so, oh, love it. You guys are asking good questions, but you got to put them in the comment box because I'm tempted to answer them as they come, and then I'll be all blah, 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 blah. So the comments are in the questions are in the question box. We will get to them, but please put them there. Okay. Give some tips. See, my brain, I keep thinking like inappropriate jokes. Okay. You're saved. You're saved. Okay. Give some pointers.
Okay.
Rules of thumb for people, specifically men, because I believe that it's a little bit more difficult for men to abstain. So let's just say, because this is what I've heard. I don't have a male member, so I don't know about the whole breeze effect, but I have heard that you could pretty much just have a breeze blow by and all of a sudden your buddy's like, hey fella, what are we
That's
doing
so,
today?
oh man, that's so true. Like, I'm gonna be honest. That's a real thing. I'm gonna be honest. That's a real thing. Like, it's just like a random, like nothing can be like literally nothing can be going on, and you just get turned on, and you just like, what the heck? Like, you know what I mean?
Because I think there's a difference between thinking about something and that happening versus almost like a yawn. Like nobody sits here is like, gosh, it'd be really nice to yawn right now. Like nobody does it. You just yawn. And I imagine it, the second, type would be kind of like that. It's almost like because it happens in your sleep. Like you don't have to be consciously.
Right.
Yeah, I heard one kid, he was like, I went up to go present in front of the class, and then I don't know, like there was nothing sexy about being in class, and all of a
I
sudden,
remember those days. Yeah. No, I think this happened to every dude. Like every dude. I don't know if y'all ever saw the wood. You saw the wood when the dude had to like put the little table, the little tablet or whatever in front of him and stuff, just so he was like, nah, for real. That's a real thing.
That's horrible. I'm glad I'm not a dude.
Yeah. So like tips, right? Because I think the goal is, and we and one of my best friends, we just kind of talked about this the other day. It's not that you want that desire taken away from you, right? Because that desire is a great thing, right? You're going from my married friends, you're gonna need it, right? But you gotta be able to control it, right? To a certain extent, right? Just because a thought enters your mind, you can dismiss it, right? You can be like, no, nope, we aren't talking about that right now, right? We're not thinking about that right now, right? Because if you do, the more you think about it, the more you're gonna be prone to do it, the more you're gonna be daydreaming, the more you're gonna be doing this and doing this and doing this, right? And you're gonna end up watching something you ain't supposed to need to be watching, right? So you really gotta, once those things come in, look, it's a battle, it's a fight every single day, bro. As long as you get up and be like, all right, I'm back on this horse, let's try to win the day. That's my biggest advice to men and women, but men that's trying to abstain, just focus on winning the day. Man, don't focus on being 10 years down the line, still being a virgin or what. Just focus on today. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to win the day, right? I'm going to try to be the best person, the best man I can possibly be. I'm going to try to deny my flesh as best and cling to the spirit as best I can. Some days you're going to win. Some days you're going to lose. I'm just going to keep it a buck with you, right? But as long as you keep getting on that horse and being like, nah, we're going to get better today, right? And have accountability. That's my next biggest tip. Have a group of men that can call you out and be like, man, you slipping, right? Man, come on now. You need to get better at that, right? Just like how you do when you bench or when you work out, you got somebody that's going to hold you accountable, making sure you're doing all your reps. You need men around you that's going to make sure you do all your spiritual push-ups, right?
Yeah. And when we're going to go there. This person might be practicing abstinence because they're not engaging with another person, but there might be another partner in their life. So let's just keep it a buck.
Oh, yeah.
We'll keep it a buck. The purpose, I want to get into the why, because a lot of people keep asking the why. Why would why, blah, 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 blah. So we'll look into the spiritual second. But first, there should be nothing in your life that controls you.
Not football, not nothing. I agree.
Nothing. My appetite should not control. My appetite for food should not control me. My appetite for sex should not control me. My appetite for sleep should not control me. I, the being, we are a human being. The being that is Yancy, the being that is Christopher, should be the one in control at all times. Even if I'm tired, I should be able to will myself to stay awake. Even if I'm hungry, I should will myself to be able to fast. Even if I am turned on, I should will myself to be able to change my mind and think about something else.
Yeah. So
if you are, the baseline is that you're out of control. And I have so many people who would say this, because I did my argument in my group. And I said, how many of you can abstain? Not saying you want to, how many of you can? And people are like, oh, I could. I said, but how do you know you could? How do you? You don't know unless you try. So if you don't know if it's controlling you. So even though people who are not doing it for a spiritual reason, which I'm about to get into, You are a slave to something. And I asked people, I said, how many of you, if I could give you a magic sex partner eraser, how many partners would you erase from your past, sexual partners?
And from what I hear, everybody would erase a whole lot of people.
80 to 9, it was like 80 to 90%. 80 to 90% were like, yeah, I would. I wouldn't have got that girl pregnant. This one wouldn't be a spaz because, you know, women, we get a chemical that attaches us to you. So this chick is on you now. So many people that they really regretted sleeping with. So imagine if you could control yourself more, you would make a lot better decisions. And even if you don't want to do abstinence, maybe you don't sleep around as much. Or maybe you take longer before you sleep with the person. But let's get into the spiritual reasons, okay?
Yeah.
So I'll start and then you can give yours. As a believer, well, all of us, whether you're a believer or not, your body is the temple, is your temple. And so that is the place where the Holy Spirit dwells. And so I said, all the other things that you can do to hurt yourself is outside of your body. This is the thing that you can do to disrespect your own body. And when you have intimacy, you are literally bringing in another energy into you, because sex is meant to be a bond in the spirit realm. It's meant to make man and woman become one flesh. You are literally one flesh in that moment of intimacy, but spiritually you stay connected. That's why the Bible says what God
That's what marriage is. That's essentially what marriage is.
Right. What God has put together. Well, this is the thing. This is the statement that I came up with. There's no premarital sex in the Bible.
There's just sex, and sex is marriage.
Sex is marriage. So if you had sex, boom, dun, 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 you just got married. You just got married in the spirit realm. And so what God has put together, let no man tear asunder. And so these people are combined in the spirit realm. And now you're introducing all these different things, which is why it says, be not unequally yoked. It's okay if you're one with someone who's walking according to the same spirit as you, because you're walking together. It's like a three-legged race. You're both going the same direction. But now you try to split this thing apart. A piece of you and a piece of him is going, and it's just a hot mess. So one, you are taking care of yourself selfishly. You're protecting yourself from all the soul ties that you're going to create, which that's a whole other thing. But two, you're honoring God with your body. You're saying there is nothing out there that's more important than you, God. My relationship with you and your commandments are more important than even my own personal satisfaction. And so there are things that you can do so that you're not suffering. We're not, clearly we're not living a life of suffering, but that's the reason we start. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, and I don't care who you are. If you're trying to be and become and do everything that God has created you to do on this earth, you're going to have to learn the principle and the skill of dying to yourself, right? If you do not learn that, you will never become everything that God has created you to become, right? And what do I mean that? I mean that in all aspects, from fasting to denying sexual temptation, to serving when you don't want to serve,
to shutting your mouth.
So many things you don't want to do. You're going to have to do it because God is going to call you. And you can look from everybody in the Bible to even Jesus Christ, right? God's going to give you some things to do that you don't necessarily want to do, right? And if you cannot submit yourself to what God knows and what he's calling you to do, then you're only going to reach a certain level. Now, can you still be saved? Yeah, you can still be saved, but you're going to be missing out on so many things that God wants to do in you and through you because of your lack of just dying to yourself, right? So that quality is extremely important, especially as being a man, right? Because if you can't die to yourself, there's no way you're going to be able to die for your wife. No way, right? So when you're single, and this is a tip, I'm kind of going on a rant, but if you're a single man, you need to learn that skill, right? You need to learn that skill before you get married, right? Because when you get married, we talk about a submissive wife. Man, if you ain't learned that skill of dying to yourself, man, you can kiss all that goodbye, right? Because there are going to be times when you got to, pick up this job, or you got to do this, or you got to serve here, you got to do X, Y, and Z to make sure the family is straight, right? It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. That's life.
Just kidding. Don't say that. No, I'm just kidding. No, and this is a huge point. There was a guy who was really famous for being abstinent because he came from a really big family. They were on a reality show and everything. But they were like, oh my God, I can't believe that, you're abstinent. He goes, if I can't control my sex life when I'm single, what do I think is going to happen when I'm married? And I think, I always think this, if you out there, anytime you feel horny, anytime you're turned on, you just have to have sex. What are you going to do when you're married and you get turned on by something? You're just going to be like, oh, I got to have sex. You think you suddenly are just going to have this willpower? You think that your ethics of not being a cheater is just going to suddenly, if you're really that controlled by your loins, what is going to stop you from when you're controlled by, what's going to stop you from being controlled by your loins when you're married?
And let's be honest, two of the greatest men arguably ever to walk this earth, obviously outside of Jesus, King David and Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived, right? Their weakness was their inability to control themselves with women, both of them. So you telling me, one, you saying you just such a better man than this guy, right? That you can not work on this and you'll be good all throughout your life, right? But if these two men, that was some amazing men that obviously, you know, was substantial in the Bible, right? If they fell to their sexual urges, that just shows you, bro, I gotta be on this.
Hello?
I gotta stay on this, right? It's an important thing. And who knows? I mean, obviously I'm trying to think about this too much, but who knows what Solomon and King David could have done if they would have got that, you know, in check. Who knows what they would have done.
Because there was stuff that David wanted to do, remember? And they said, sorry, you can't, you have too much blood on your
hands. You'll never, your next generation is going to see this because of X, Y, and Z, right?
Yes, yes. And this is, I want to say this part. So in the natural, because for those of you who are not believers in Jesus Christ, you have the natural and you have the spiritual. So the natural person, you know, eating, drinking, whatever, the spirit, that's your heart condition, you know, the non-tangible stuff. But here's the thing. In the natural, you don't even add God in there. In the natural, the person who is disciplined exponentially betters themselves just with just self-discipline. They could be an atheist. An atheist who has self-discipline is going to have a better life, possibly, than even a believer who does not have self-discipline. I mean, I'm going out there by saying that, okay?
No, that's fair.
Because there are natural laws, gravity, you know, things like that. There are natural laws. The early bird gets the worm. If I start my day at 4:30, my life changed when I started getting up at 4:30. Literally, my life went like this. To night and day. When I stopped being a night owl and I forced myself to be a morning person, my entire life changed. I started losing weight. I started eating everything. But then you take the believer who exercises self-discipline and he does it in order to honor God, and he taps into the spirit. Woo! That's when you start having favor. So favor is right here. Self-discipline is right here. And when you put those two things together, so all of your part, that's you're doing the natural.
It becomes purpose.
You add that favor to it, baby. So it's like for you, you get up, you eat right, you work out. Okay, that's all you can do in the natural. What God could do is send someone to you to say, oh, I want to pay you $15,000 to put up these 3 posts because I need you to da-da-da-da-da. Guess what?
I'm gonna receive that because I could use that. But yeah.
I'm saying, but you had to do the work because if you were some scrawny little bony thing, you would not have caught their eye. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. But we know God can move in a certain person's heart to be like, open Instagram now, boom. Now they scroll it. Now they see you. So you add your part. Then you add the favor that God is just waiting to give you. Man, your life is crazy. I don't even talk about half the stuff that he does for me because I don't want to sound show-offish. And it's just, that's not, I'm not on Instagram to flex. I'm here to help people. But my God, if you ever want to know, DM me. God has blessed me so much. And it's stuff that doesn't make sense. Like I said earlier, courses that other people pay thousands for, people just hit me up. Can I use you as a case study? This is before I hit my numbers. Because before you say, oh, that's because you got 12,000. No. I had less than 1,000 when the person reached out. Hey, I don't know how to do email campaigns. Hey, can I use you as a case study for email? Favor ain't fair, but you got to do your part. Faith works. Okay, I'm going to get off that hill.
No, I agree. I agree 1,000%.
Okay, so we actually went over everything. Okay, perfect. I love it when the questions come out organically. So you ready to get into these questions, or do you have
Let's
to
get them. What y'all got?
Okay, just let me know if you get pressed for time. Okay. All right. So I believe, oh, is it the top or the, oh, oh my God. This is the first in my entire life that I've ever seen so many questions. Can you see all the questions?
No, I can't. I can't see anything.
Oh my, I literally went like this and it just kept scrolling. I've never seen this many questions.
All right, let's get into it. We're
Okay.
gonna try to do them quick, and knock them out.
Okay. I gotta even see which ones. Are you taking guests on the stream? I'm so sorry, not at the moment. Maybe after if he has to go. Suggestions in dating, because okay, we did on this. What age do you see? What age do you see yourself getting married at? We'll do that one first.
Shoot, as soon as God give me to go, right? Yeah, I'm not. I'm not like holding out for anything, but I just think God kind of has me in certain seasons right now, and He's kind of just teaching me. But when that time is ready, He's like, "Nah, this what it is. This what it is. Let's go." Then I'm going. Like, I'm not trying. No offense to anybody else, but I'm not trying to be, the 40-year-old virgin. But nah.
That's not you're not trying to walk out that ministry.
I hope.
Okay.
Oh my God, I hope not. But
Okay, here's the next one. And by the way, can you see me okay still? Because I got my screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
You good?
All right. I had a child and I was not married. So she had a child out of wedlock. How do you combat the comment that you can't be a born again virgin? I'll let you weigh in on that first, and then I will. But I'm assuming her question means like somebody not taking it seriously, not taking her born again.
Yeah, because I mean, for me, and it's just me, like I can care less with the whole like the name of like, oh, I'm a born again virgin. Like, man, as long as you like living that way and you trying to like honor God with your body and moving forward and being abstinent and stuff like that, then that's what really matters, right? People get caught up, and that's in everything. People get caught up with like the labels of everything, but as long as you actually living that way and trying to do everything the right way, man, God's grace is sufficient, right? Yeah. And He's going to honor that. I don't care who you are. He's definitely going to honor that. And He's going to give you the grace to kind of walk through that and do that. You cannot. And like I said earlier, as being a Christian and trying to walk this life or trying to do anything, you gotta have tough skin.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep it a buck. Like we in today's society, in today's world, you gotta have some tough skin, right? And yeah, you got people, saying and counting back. You gotta be able to be like, no, all right, bet. I know what it is. I know what God called me to do. I know what He made me to do. And this is what I do, right? And you got to be able to, and that's what I said, the community that you surround yourself with is extremely important, right? Because you need people that's going to speak life into you, right? And that can also hold you accountable and keep it real with you. But you need people that can like love on you and love through those things, right? So yeah, it's.
And I would say too that it's really important that people are equally yoked. To me, if you're dating someone who only wants to honor your virginity if you're like an actual virgin as opposed to a born again virgin, to me that speaks to their not being on the same page as you.
Yeah.
Because if a person is abstaining to honor God, they don't care if you started your born again journey yesterday, 5 minutes earlier. The only people who I've seen have an issue with that are the people who want to smash, and it's harder for them to respect it because they're going, well, at least if you're a virgin, I can respect that. You're not doing it out of respect for the virginity. You should be doing it out of respect for God. So I personally wouldn't worry about a person who doesn't take it seriously because they already disqualified themselves for being a partner.
True. So, and with that also being said, like I will say this, you gotta understand it too, right? So like I think it's unfair for you to be, let's say you had a kid or something and you was like, oh, I only want to date a virgin or something like that. You gotta come on now, like if you're asking for grace, we also gotta extend that grace as well, right? And for me, like a question I get all the time is, oh, like, do you have to date a virgin, right? Or are you looking for a virgin? For me, it's not. Like I'm not. That's not like a checklist I kind of get. If you are, cool. If you're not, cool. It's about how you living moving forward, and also have you healed from your past relationships or experiences or trauma or X, Y, and Z. Right? If we're on the same page with that, then we good.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think that she is, just to clarify, I don't think she is looking for virginity, but as far as agreeing to abstain.
Right.
So yeah. Okay. Right. So, let's see. Oh, I love that. A massive thank you for me and you for hosting this live. As a 42-year-old 42-year-old virgin watching this is incredibly validating. I love that. Okay.
Keep it up.
All right. Let's see. I don't know why, for some reason, they're putting stuff in here from my my stories, because I posted something in my stories. So sorry, I'm just scrolling through.
Okay.
This makes me feel a lot better because it's not too many questions to answer. Where's the next one? Okay. If you and your future wife opt to have a child, how easy or hard do you think it would be for you to abstain once she's pregnant? That would matter to also abstain from sex. So I think what they're saying is, once she gets pregnant, which I would assume it wouldn't be hard because you've already practiced abstinence.
Right, but I thought, I mean, I never explained it, but I thought you can have sex when you're pregnant.
Oh, she said once she's at a pregnant phase, that would mandate her to abstain. So she means, so there is not a set, as someone who's had children, there is not a requirement for all women to not have sex. They actually encourage it because it will induce labor at a certain point. So I have not heard of a healthy, full-term pregnancy where they're like, okay, at this point you stop. Where you have to stop having sex is after the pregnancy, after the birth, because there's a lot of trauma that's happening and it needs to heal. So, it's like having surgery. You don't just, you wrap it up.
How long?
Yeah. So,
how long does that normally last?
6 weeks is the minimum. But it depends on the woman's comfort, because if you've ever had like oral surgery or things like that, like there's a lot of pain when there's stuff going on, and so that person has to have a chance to heal.
Right.
And so the first time could even be painful for the woman after that, because, like I said, a lot is happening down there. But it depends on the woman. Yes, it depends 100% on the woman. So, but the point
is, I'm
a
creative guy. We can find other ways. So,
and that's that part. There's not only one type. So,
right.
Okay. I'm so relieved that these are not all questions from tonight. Okay, here's a new one. As a virgin, would it bother you? Oh, if your partner had, which I think you kind of answered this. Would it bother you if your partner had an extensive sexual history or body count?
All right, now it depends. It depends on what extensive is, right? Me and my boys talk about this all the time. Like, what number is too much, right? For me, it's not necessarily just the number, right? For me, it's about where you were, right, in that time in your life. How many bodies you have, but it's not really just the bodies, because now how many people you're attached to, right? How many things I'm going to have to deal with, because now you have
unresolved
25 attachments, and it's like, bro, like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, that's something I got to deal with. And people can say, oh, your body count don't matter. It does matter, because now, like, you're carrying all those people with you, whether it's a trauma, whether it's subconscious things, whether it's expectations, whether it's whatever it is, you're carrying that into your next relationship, right? Yeah. So it does matter to a certain extent. But I do understand, obviously, it's what you're doing moving forward. And it's about, like, like you said, how you living past that. But that healing, I think that's what my concern is more so. Like, have you healed from all of those experiences and stuff like that? Because if we're being honest, a lot of women has a lot of sexual trauma, right? And if you got the whole lot, not saying it's gonna be impossible, it's gonna make my job a lot easier, because I gotta now break down the walls. I gotta now be careful about certain things. I gotta, you know what I mean? So it's a conversation. It's a conversation that I personally have to have.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm not saying I need to know the names and the list and everything like that, but we gotta have that vulnerable, honest, transparent conversation, right? Especially if we're trying to do life together and I'm trying to, make you my wife. Like, that's a real conversation.
And I think that with women, it's important to note that women have a chemical that's released. God made us to where we bond. And I think this is actually very interesting, because in the Bible, there were concubines and multiple wives. Nowhere in the Bible that I'm aware of, outside of certain requirements for elders in the church, did it say that you needed to have one wife. The elders said a husband and one wife and all that. But I think it's very interesting that scientifically a woman bonds to a man So if a man has multiple, and I'm not advocating for this, but if a man has multiple wives, not mistresses, but wives, he's not going to, he doesn't have that same chemical attachment that the woman does, but the woman does have a bond to the man. So if a woman has a high body count, she's going to be affected differently than a man. And I don't even want to get into high body count. If she has a body count, meaning if she has one partner, she's attached to that partner. So whether it's one partner she's attached to or 50 partners she's attached to, she has an attachment. That is why women have a very hard time doing the friends with benefits thing. They have to lie to themselves to say, oh, I'll be fine. But they always look up, oh, I don't know what happened, I fell in love. Because it's a chemical that's released when you have sex, man.
Right.
So that's that. The other thing that I want to ask is, which I forgot to ask this, the big question that people have to say is, oh, I got to test drive it. I got to make sure it's good. And I got to see what he's working with. Okay. Especially from the women's side. This was an argument that I made.
Okay.
I'd like to hear your thoughts. When people talk about, oh, you got to test drive. I said, do you understand that nobody test drives? Nobody buys the test driven car. So let's just say you test drive a Toyota Honda, that's too different. Toyota Corolla. I was like, wait.
Yes.
Let's say you test drive the Toyota Corolla and you say, I absolutely love this. You return the test driven car to Toyota and you say,
you get one like it. Yeah.
You don't ask for that test driven car that everyone's butt's been in. Exactly. We're not cars. So when people use that analogy, not only do I think it's the stupidest analogy, but I'm like, it doesn't even make sense even from a car perspective, because you don't take the test driven car. So the value goes down even with the car. But this is the other part. I ask people, were you amazing, phenomenal, back-blowing out, mind-blowing lover the very first time you lost your virginity? And people laugh, no, I was horrible. Okay, so what changed between then and now? Well, I've had more experience.
To learn that, yeah.
So what you're saying is time and practice equals to getting better, potentially. Right. Yes. So what makes you think that you cannot be a virgin and have time and practice with that same partner? I would venture to say it's going to get better because you're continuing with the same partner, because not all people are the same. They don't all like the same things. So right. I'm going to ask you your take on that first part, and then we'll get into that size part after.
Yeah. So for one, I look at it like this. There's certain cars you ain't test driving, right? And I'm just being honest. Like, I'm one of those cars. Like, you just not, like, there's like a certain level of, forget cars. There's certain level of automobiles that you just, if you want it, you got to come in and ready and be like, no, this is what I want, X, Y, and Z. We're going to make it happen. And there's certain ones, the Toyota Corolla, oh, let me test drive it and see how it goes. There's certain automobiles that if you want to purchase, it's a different type of vibe, right? Like you gotta come completely different, right? And look, in the physical and the natural, like I understand it, right? Because you're worried that, hey, what if it's horrible? What if it's this? What if it's that? Like, and I get that, right? It's an honest human concern, right? And I've thought about it too, right? But that's when you gotta like really lean on your faith, right? You gotta understand, and I believe God is a good father, and my father that's on this earth gives me amazing gifts. So how much more than a heavenly father would be able to bless me?
Come on,
right?
Now.
So if I'm doing this and I'm giving it my all in X, Y, and Z, I cannot. There's no way God is going to give me a woman to be my wife that's going to be like trash. There's no way. There's no way. Just like, now, there could be a learning curve, right? I mean, we have the rest of our life to learn and get better. But there's no way it's going to be just like horrible. No way. Not my guy. I mean, hey, you serve somebody else, that's one thing. But not my guy. It is going to be, and then not only that, if I'm keeping it up, everybody that said they had sex before, right? You've never experienced it how God intended it to. So you don't even know how sex really could, be, because you've never experienced it the way that God intended it to. Like, hopefully, God willing, when the first time I experienced sex, I got God right there with me, right? Like, and everything I'm doing, like, he giving me a superpower, right? There's been workouts and stuff, and there's been things, and whether it's taking the bar or doing my pro day, to where I was just floating, and it was just like the spirit was just moving through me. I pray and I hope it's something like that, right? To where it's like, man, I don't know what just happened, but that was something like it was on a whole different level, right? Because now that spirit was working through me, right? And it was a blessing to God, right? Because he was like, this is how it was meant to be, right? And I think as we seek and as we try and as we work towards experiencing sex and everything how God intended it to, man, we reach a whole different blessing that's going to satisfy us more than we can even imagine,
You
right?
better preach. When you
But
said,
it goes down to your faith. I think the devil tempts everybody. Every sin is rooted in, do you really trust God? From Adam and Eve all the way down, do you really trust God? Right? So even that sin of being like, oh, I got to test drive the car, ask yourself and keep it on. Do you really trust God? Do you?
You better speak that truth right now.
And that's a real thing that we all, and that's what everything. Do you trust God that he's going to provide for your family? Do you trust God that he's going to lead you in the right way? Do you trust God that he's going to send the right people? Whatever it is, the devil's going to try to convince you, do you really trust God?
Because what they're saying is, I don't want to risk getting
and I'm going to put it in my own hands.
What's that?
And he said, I'm going to put it in my own hands. As if anything you've ever done in your own hands works.
Hello, somebody. The verse that y'all, I'm sorry, but to me, the scripture is hilarious sometimes. Like, I'd be legit laughing. He said this. He said, if you as humans, he said, hey, y'all are evil. He said, y'all are evil. Right. If you as humans know how to give good gifts, which you reference this, he said, what do you think I can do? I'm literally perfection personified. So here's the thing, exceedingly, abundantly, above all that you can ask or even think. And people think they understand sex because they know the anatomy and this goes in here and this does that. They don't understand the psychology behind sex. There is a psychology, a woman's body, and this is secular scientists. A woman cannot experience maximum pleasure unless mentally and emotionally she is completely relaxed. You don't feel relaxed until you feel safe. And guess what? You don't feel totally safe until you feel you have a total commitment. When you are with a man who not only has stood before all of your friends and family, but before God and said, I will give my life for this woman. He put your name on his bank account. He said everything. You don't think that's going to be better sex than the dude that you don't know if he's going to break up with you the next day or if he's even going to get up and leave that night? Bye. Goodbye.
Yeah. So I mean, I get the test driven thing, but like you said, you got to ask, like, do you really trust God? But I will say this, and kind of going into the next kind of aspect of the question. It's a little hard for y'all women. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm so glad I'm not a woman because like that could be a little difficult, right? Because you got to be like, because every guy is different, right? And for a guy, to a certain extent, right, you can kind of see what you're working with, right? Like from a woman. But a woman, like you don't really know, so it's just like unless you like find out, you kind of don't. No, I mean I don't know. I don't know how it is. I'm not a woman. I'm glad I'm not. But you know that's up to y'all.
I think it all rolls under that faith thing.
Yeah.
I really do think it rolls because I asked the same question. I really do think that it's the faith thing. If we will give our life, you cannot wait for him. I don't know what that means. Who is not waiting for? I'm not sure. But I think that whole faith thing and how it's going to work out. And I think the other part of it too is not to downplay the intimacy part, but your entire relationship should not be based upon that. Because like we always say this, God forbid something happens and that person, something changes and they whatever. You cannot base your entire relationship on such a small aspect of it. And you'll even get to a point where both people don't even want it. If you get so old, there's some people who just say, well, we're just not into that anymore. But also, if you really look at the scripture, there were times that he even called the husband and wife to abstain.
Right.
And I do believe, this is my theory, but I do believe it's just a simple reminder that they have to remember they are in control, meaning not God, but meaning they're in control of their body. We
Right.
need to be able to crucify our flesh. And
Now, with that being said, because I saw a live you had the other day, and they both were in agreement to abstain for the reason of getting closer to God, right? It wasn't one playing a sex card and being like, oh, you just not going to get none because I'm mad at you or X, Y, and Z. No, 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 no. We're not doing that, right?
you got to
Especially not my
co-sign.
marriage,
Yeah.
right? But if there's times where, like, no, we got to, you know, kind of just put that to the side, just like fast or anything like that. And we're going to like dive into this and we'll really, you know, get into the word. I think that's extremely beneficial, right? But for me, I look at it a little bit. I look at sex when it's done in the right context as praise. Like we're essentially praising God, right? Because that's what he created, and he created it and you're doing it and honoring him in such a way. So, I mean, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, and he says to be fruitful and multiply. So before, obviously in the Bible, they didn't have what do you call it? Pregnancy control. What is that? Why am I not thinking
birth control?
Birth control. I'm like
condoms. Yeah.
Birth control. So just imagine back then. I mean, really think about this because I recently was thinking about this. I was randomly reading the Bible, and I'm like, if you have sex, you're pretty much gonna have a kid.
Yeah, gonna have a kid, right?
Right. So, you know, that is a whole nother thing because it's like, imagine those women. Not only is she saying, I'm not in the mood, I'm tired. She's like, I'm not in the mood to get pregnant again.
Right.
So, like my grandma is a good Catholic woman, and she had 10 back-to-back pregnancies. I'm talking back-to-back-to-back-to-back.
Like every year?
Yeah, every year. Because as soon as you're not pregnant, you can't get pregnant when you're pregnant. So as soon as she was not pregnant, she would get pregnant again because obviously they're having sex. So they're, yeah.
Don't get wrong, I want kids, but we ain't doing 10.
So thank God we live in a day and age, okay, where procreating is not, you know, yeah. So that was a whole, whew, you talk about the stakes back then. Thank goodness.
I got a whole football team. Start defense. Let's go.
My other grandma had 11. So 11 on one side and 10 on, yeah. But I want to say this, you're 3 hours ahead of me, so I'm not going to hold you any longer. You've already been here an hour and a half. I want to say thank you so much for your time. The people have...
So me?
Yeah.
I'm 3 hours ahead. I thought you was... Oh, you're in LA.
Yeah. So it's only 7:30
right.
for me. I think it's what, 10:30 for you?
Oh, it's 9. No, it's 9:30. I'm good.
Oh wait, what time zone are you in?
I'm not in the East Coast. I'm in Louisiana. So it's Central.
Duh, Louisiana is it's that odd little, yeah, I should know that.
I
thought you had to go because you were like, hurry through the questions. So I'm trying
no, but I mean, you said we had so many. I was like, all right, let's try to get them. No, I'm straight. I'm straight for now. I got at least 30 minutes left.
Okay, let me see. I don't understand this question. I'm so sorry. I know you typed it twice. If a godly husband will have to give his life for you, she cannot wait for him abstinent? I'm so sorry, but I don't understand. I would assume that both people are waiting. So if you understand that, jump in. But I do want to answer the other question. There was another question that said, do you have advice for, I think it said walking the walk. Let me go back. It says, do's and don'ts of staying on this walk. I definitely want to get into this before we close. Okay. I would say for me, as somebody, for the women who are not abstinent, gotcha. Yeah, you shouldn't even be messing with those women, in my opinion, because that's too difficult. Okay. As somebody who was raised in the church, I was raised in the church. Parents were believers. Like, I'm talking every time the radio was on, it was either a sermon or worship music. Like, super saved church. Saved household. Got saved when I was 8 years old. It was not until I was in my 30s at a crisis point, rock bottom, contemplating suicide, let me just really paint the picture, that I finally even asked for an encounter with God. To be honest, it didn't even occur to me to ask for it because from what I understood, I got my ticket. I said my prayer of salvation. I got my ticket into heaven, so I'm good.
Yeah. And
I didn't have a terrible life. I had a pretty coasting life, you know? Good parents, Leave It to Beaver, June Cleaver type of mom, great dad, graduated high school, graduated college, got married, you know, had the 2 kids. Like, I had a great life. And so it wasn't until I finally had stress, which I'm, thank God for stress and problems, because it changed my life for the better. It wasn't fun in the moment, but it was a pivot point. But at that time, and I'm going somewhere with this, when I had so much pain and I was like, I'm not going to get hooked on drugs to cope. I'm not going to get alcohol. I'm not going to do all that stuff. And medication just made me balloon up like 60 pounds, which that was horrible. But I had a moment where I said, God, if you are real, which I know you are, I'm going to need to feel you, because this whole, I just believe in my head, this is not getting me through the night. I'm not getting through. I don't know how much longer I can do this without losing the rest of my marbles. So when I began to ask and earnestly seek, he says, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you. Ask and it shall be given unto you. I pleaded with him. I begged. I was like the lady crawling through the crowd, just going, if I could just touch the hem of his garment. I came with an energy and a fervor, and the only thing I knew to do was to read my Bible, because I said that's the only thing close enough to hearing his voice. So I'm not going to lie. I really didn't know what I was doing, what I was expecting. I just knew this wasn't it, and I couldn't do it, and I don't know anything else. So that's when I, 7 years ago, started getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I would come downstairs to my kitchen table, and I would sit there and I would read. I read until I felt better. It took me it took me 2 weeks, approximately 2 weeks, before I actually felt something. What it was I felt the depression lift. I felt the spirit of heaviness come away. My situation and circumstance did not change one bit, but suddenly I felt this peace that all these old time saints were talking about. Suddenly I would cry when I would listen to worship songs, because it meant something to me. And I was like, oh, this is the experience everybody has been talking about. And I always felt like I was missing out. There is a difference between punching your ticket. I get to go to heaven when I die, smelling like smoke. You smelling like the flames of hell, but you got in because you're on the list. There's a difference between that bare minimum and what Christopher was talking about, when you are sold out for Christ. You are walking in your purpose. He says, jump. You say, Daddy, how high? And he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. You better enter in. That is a huge disparity. Those 2 points. So if you want to know how to walk this walk, you better get your spiritual bread. You better give us this day our daily bread. There is a reason the word is daily. Daily, there is nutrition that happens in the spirit realm that you cannot see. But I imagine it like the manna just floating down. Every morning when I come to God, I imagine, I put my hands out. I put my hands out and I say, God, fresh anointing, let it fall on me. Stir up this gift, Father God. Stir up this gift. Fall on me. And I read. I don't understand how reading a book with words on it somehow translates to what happens this. I don't get it, but it strengthens my spiritual muscles. I don't understand how pulling a bar down over my head makes my muscles in my body get stronger, but that's what the trainer says, so we keep doing it. You don't need to understand how it works, but you understand that it does work. You read that Bible, and when you open that Bible, you say, God, help me to understand. Open the eyes of my understanding. Open the eyes, because only the Spirit can understand what the Spirit is saying. Just like someone speaking Chinese can only understand someone else who's speaking Chinese. You have to be able to ask him. And you can even ask him this: Lord, please help me to not be distracted. Please help me to even wake up in time to not be distracted. Please help me to not have my mind go off, because, you know, all these other things will happen. But you got to read daily until it starts to feel like something. And you got to thank him daily. You got to come with a spirit of gratitude. Oh my God, thank you for waking me up this morning. Thank you that both my legs work. Thank you that my heart beats. Thank you I'm not sitting in a hospital bed somewhere. Thank you that my once you get to that list, you start to realize all the things you have to be grateful for. And something starts to happen. And then as you begin to read that book, you start to see what he's telling you to do. And as you start to realize what you're supposed to be doing, you start feeling convicted when you're not doing it. But now, because your daily bread, you actually have the power to abstain from whatever it is. And then you start to operate in the gifts of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience. So that's my best advice on saying, how do you walk this walk? Otherwise, you're going to be like that person who's just trying to willpower, white knuckle it. hold your breath and try not to sin every single day. You can't maintain that.
Right. You can't. And it might work for a while,
A
right?
little bit.
Because you know, the discipline and stuff will be good in X, Y, and Z, but there's a point I feel like in every person's life or every believer's life especially where, you know, you read the Bible and in theory you understand everything, right? Like in intellectually you understand the Bible and X, Y, and Z and stuff like that. But there's a point, there's a moment, and you just said it like with you, there's a point when you experience God, right? And I mean, I say that's the part when you really kind of like take off, right? Because like you've had an experience, God. That's why, like for me, ain't nobody can tell me God ain't real. Ain't nobody can tell me all these other religions and stuff. It's like, oh, this is real, this is real. Nah, man, miss me with all that. I've talked to this man, and he's spoken back to me. The creator of everything that we see. I've talked to this man, and he speaks back to me. I know this person, right? People ask, oh, how you know God? How you? I know I have a real relationship with him, right?
Right.
And when you have that, I don't need to entertain anything else. From Buddha to Joseph Smith to all whatever it is, right? Man, you can miss me with that, right? And I'm gonna be sold up and I'm gonna stand firm in it, right? I'm not gonna be shy or be like, oh well, you know, they can worship this. Nah, this is the real God. And if if you don't believe it, if we're being honest, if you don't believe it, I know where you're going, right? And that's a sad truth that everybody doesn't really want to say, but Jesus said either he was a liar or he was the truth, right? He said nobody gets to the Father except through me, right? So that either saying he's the only way or he was lying, there's multiple ways, right? It can't be both. There's no subjective truth, right? So I met this person, I know this person, I had that experience with God, right? And for me, it just I love it when I hear other believers finally have that experience, right? Because it's just like, man, that's it. Like
You
you
can't
got it,
explain
right?
it.
Like you on a whole different level now, right? And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So just to hearing like you in that experience, man, it's that's the goal. That is literally the goal. And that's why I do what I do, right? Don't get me wrong, being absent and doing all this and X, Y, and Z. Man, the goal of everything that I do, everything you see on my social media and all that, is to get more people to have that experience, right? Because once you have that experience with God, man, your whole life is going to change. And the generations behind you is going to change, right? And like you said, when you start experiencing God in certain ways, now your kids going to be like, oh, that's what he taught. He talked to dad, and that just happened. Like he talked to God. This and it just starts clicking for them. So when they get into life happens, right? They're gonna be like, well, my dad did this, so I'm gonna try this, and I'm gonna do it. And then okay, he said keep doing. Okay, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep doing it. Seek and you shall find. And then God's gonna reveal Himself, and now it's gonna be like, oh, this stuff is real.
My daughter,
And then it takes off.
she tried it out. She's so cute because like you can't tell her nothing now.
Yeah.
Because it's so cute. I told her when she turned 10, I said, okay, you ready for the conversation? She was like, okay. And I said, look, we don't talk about this because not everyone can handle this. I said, we got superpowers. She was like,
Thanks.
I said, we do. I said, and we had just finished watching like a superhero show. You know, I said, you know, they don't run around in their costume all day because, you know, people can't handle that. I said, but we got access to the creator of the universe. And I said, every one of us has certain gifts. Like my gift might be different from your gift, whoop de whoop de whoop, but we all come together. So I said, Mom, every day we go out there and I use my superpowers. And she said, whoa. So I remember this. She knows not to interrupt me while I'm having my morning time. This one day I didn't get up at 4:30, so she was up. So it was probably like 6:37. She's getting ready for school. So I'm in my prayer closet, da-da-da-da-da. And like you said, you hear God's voice, right? God literally was like, go check on so-and-so. And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, our house is not that big. Like if she needs me, I'm right here. She doesn't need me in the morning. She's old enough to get dressed. And you feel like, you know, that nudge he gives you like, I said what I said. So I'm like, I'm thinking like, Lord, I'm trying to worship you. So I'm like, okay, Lord. So I get up out of my my little prayer closet and I go to the door and I'm like, baby. And she goes, Mommy. I mean, because she's at the shower. Mommy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, come in. And little kids, you know, they panic over stuff. The tub had overflowed. the toilet had the tub stop had backed up because she's got all this curly hair, so it had backed up. In her little brain, she didn't think to turn the shower off, so she just seeing the water get higher and higher in the tub, and she doesn't know what to do. And I, you know, help her out, and then she goes, "Mom, I was in the shower and I was panicking, and I said, God, please help me." And she goes, it goes right when I knocked on the door. And she has so many stories like that. I could just tell you over and over, like very specific prayers. And I said, God, he's sitting there like, her faith needs to be strengthened, so I'm gonna honor it. She'll say things like, God, can you make a noise if da-da-da? And I went, all right, and I made a noise in the other room. And she's so you can't tell my little girl nothing. It could be like, I can't find a pencil. She's like, did you ask God? And I'm like, oh, she checked me. I'm like, oh, right. Where can I find my pencil? But it's true. The generations, like, when you get older, it's kind of like, I think you lose your ability to believe, you know, because you get so logical.
And jaded by world and disappointments and the enemy, so many different things. No, I agree.
You can get them when they're young, and they start to realize, wait, I don't have any of the problems the other kids are having. Whoa,
every time dangerous.
Everyone else is stressed out and they feel the need to be on drugs, but I have so much peace and wow and all this. You know, everyone else is struggling to make money, and it seems like everything I touch, it just turns to gold. But there's so much out there that we are supposed to have access, and so many people are not living the life that God intended. He said, I came that you may have life and that more abundantly. And so many people, I think they mean well, but they teach this you got to be righteous. It's all about being righteous and obtaining favor in God's eyes. And he says, honey, your righteousness is filthy. Baby, oh, bless your heart. We can't earn God's love. So all these people have gotten it confused, and they think it's about checking off a list and making sure you have a clean rap. You don't have a rap sheet. And it's not about that. It's about understanding. He said, I first called you, what is it, servant? And now I call you friend. He's like, I just want to be your father. I want you to ask me when you need something. I want you to experience life the way I intended it. When I finally came to that realization, and it wasn't about being the star pupil, always getting an A+ and making sure I have an apple on the teacher's desk every day, and I started to just relax and let my daddy take care of me. And then you naturally just want to honor him. You're like, yeah, I could go out and fornicate because he would forgive me. He would. I'm not going to go to hell because I fornicate. But why would I? If I understand that his ways are better than my ways, and the best I could pick is pales in comparison to what he has for me. So you know what? I got to wait a couple decades for sex. Okay. Well, it's not even decades because you're not having sex for 10 anyway. So it's really like, what, maybe 18 to, so it's
No, I agree. Yeah.
I don't know why I got on that tangent, but I get
when the spirit takes over, we just got to roll with it. So I'm with it.
Love it. I've been in a relationship for 10 years, and my walk with God has changed in the past 3 years, and I want to wait till we get married. What advice would you give me and my fiance? My first question is, what does he think about that? Because that's a whole situation.
Right. I would say first, have that conversation with him, right? Y'all got to make sure y'all on the same page. You can't be keeping that to yourself because he's not aware and X, Y, and Z. And to be honest, I'll be praying for y'all that y'all moving in the right direction, right? So God is working on him as he's working on you. So when y'all meeting, it's like, oh, I was thinking the same thing. Oh, let's do this. And it just works, right? But I can really see how difficult, if both people are not on that same page, how it can be very difficult. I will say this, don't compromise though. Like do, and I understand it's your fiance, do not compromise. If God is telling you to do something, if God is telling you to hold out or whatever, and that other person is not with that, man, stand firm in that because God is going to honor it. Now, I'm not saying it might, I don't know what God's going to bring to that, right? Anything can happen, but I can guarantee you, if you honor God and be obedient with what he's calling you to do, man, his blessings is going to just overflow in your life.
He's not. And when you get to this point where you have so much trust, like the reason why we don't trust God is because we haven't had enough experience with him. So it's like a trust fall. The first time it's scary, but if you become a gymnast and like this is what you do every single day, you travel the world with your partner and like you could do it in your sleep, it becomes easier the more he proves himself to you. It's really scary just the first few times. After a while, you start to see what God can do. You start to get super bold. Were you
I'm
gonna
gonna keep it.
object?
Well, not object, but I will say this. Like, I think God sometimes, like you said, and I think He does this on purpose, right? So, like you said, the first time you do a trust file in certain areas, like, you're gonna do it. All right, it's hard, and the more you do it, you're like, all right, cool, I got it, right? And then I believe He's gonna ask you to do it in a completely different field,
That's what I was
right?
gonna. Yeah.
To where it's like, I don't know about this one now. Like, you know what I mean? So He's going to be like, nah, you got to trust me in this area too.
Yes.
Trust me with your marriage. Trust me with your finances. Trust me with this. Trust me with that. Trust me with that. Right? And in that process, because I'm going through it in a certain area myself, and kind of like really trusting God in this area is like, man, okay, it was a little rough at first, but like the more you do it, like you said, the better you get, and the more you'll be like, nah, my God don't never failed me, never will, right?
I agree with you, and I think that it's levels. I think that when you trust him in one area, it's kind of like, okay, you strengthen
You got
that muscle group. Okay, now what about your finances? Are you willing to trust him in your finance? Okay, are you willing to trust him with your love life? And this is the part that I cannot. This is, if this entire live goes away and you could have one clip, this is the most important thing, I think, in my opinion. Do not look for a check mark believer. This is what I used to do. Like, do you love God? Yes. No, not even love God. Do you believe in God? Yes. No. Okay. That's what I call a check mark believer. Yep. Because unless you're an atheist, most people are not like, no, I don't even believe God exists.
But demons believe God.
What'd you say?
Demons believe in
That's
God
what I
and
was
they
about to
tremble.
say.
So that don't mean nothing.
The demons believe in God and they tremble because they actually know, they've seen firsthand. So for me, there is a difference. Remember when I said there's the checkbox, you got your salvation ticket, and then there's the experiencing God? Unequally yoked, to me, is all of this too.
Facts.
What were you saying?
Facts. No, I agree 1,000%. Facts.
If I ever started dating again, we would have to be here. We would have to, because first of all, I would drive him nuts. He'd be like, shut up. He would be like, but these are the facts and the figures. And I'd be like, but God said. He'd be like, ma'am, it just wouldn't work. You would constantly be butting each other. And I need someone who's going to be like, babe, what does the word say? Babe, what is the word? Babe, what does the word say? That's what I need him to come with. Not these are my calculations and according to the statistics of it all.
Right. No, because I mean, even like being unequally yoked is being on different levels to a certain extent, right? So like if it's too drastic, there's no way it's gonna work, right? Now I can appreciate the fact that like literally God can take somebody on level 1 in a month, like they can be on a completely different level, right? But yeah, like you got to make sure that that person is on that same level. It's like, so for me, for example, if you haven't learned certain principles, like it's going to be really hard for me to even like consider it like long term. Like if you don't know how to tithe, like if you don't know how to serve, you don't know how to submit or do certain things, right? Principles of God.
Control your tongue.
Really, let's not go there. That's a whole different line. But like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain things that like I can invest and I can help you in, but romantically, like just certain things I'm not about to like teach you.
I don't think that it's a sin or unbiblical. I think there's a lot of guidance in the Bible that's just like, bro, why would you want to? Kind of how we were saying, if you're a virgin and you don't have any kids, it's just easier if you pick another virgin. It's the ideal. So ideally, you're going to be at roughly the same place because you could, but why would you want to fight an uphill battle everywhere? Like, it's like having two people who have completely opposite taste in football. Like, every single time you're fighting, like, no, we're not wearing these colors. No, we're not watching this game. I mean, obviously, you would not pick someone over their sports team. But I'm simply saying, like, it's a whole thing. I have friends who are diehard Raiders, diehard 49ers. She's 49ers, he's Raiders. And the kids, it's like they got a custody like within the marriage. Like, who's getting the Raider kid? Who's getting the Niner kid?
No, I feel that. That's why the unequally yoked is I make TikToks about it all the time. But no, it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Okay, so you got to tell me. Okay, well, you said 30 more minutes, so we got 9 more. We got quick fire questions because they're keep coming in. Okay.
Cool.
How do you feel about contraceptives as a Christian?
In terms of,
that's all they said. So I think they're saying like, do you feel they're good or bad? I think that's what they're trying to say. And if you have a question, drop it in the box.
like,
going in order that they're being dropped in the box.
What you mean? Just like being like a good person and stuff, or?
I'm assuming. I think that I would assume they're asking, is it like unbiblical to use contraceptives? I'm assuming that's because remember I was saying my grandma's a good Catholic woman, so she didn't use contraceptives. So that's probably where they.
I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily biblical or not. You mean like while you're having, like when you're married and you're having sex?
So they said birth control in marriage.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to have a baby every time I have sex with my wife. So I mean, but I don't know if that's necessarily biblical or not. I had a friend, he got married and he was like, no, we're not going to do none of that. If it happens, it happens. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's going to happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he said some people believe it's a sin to spill the seed. I
mean, biblically, like that did happen. So like, I understand that. But I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just not there yet in that season.
I have no conviction about that, and I have not read anything in the scripture that has made me have a conviction. That's the best way I can answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What would you do if your new wife or husband, for the ladies, isn't sexually attracted to you?
We ain't gonna be married. We're not wait. I am not waiting that long to determine if we have sexual compatibility, right? And I'm a firm believer. Yes, I'm a virgin. But if we cannot talk about sex, it ain't gonna happen. Like if you're not mature enough, if we can't talk information-wise about sex and see, oh, do you like this? Do you not like this? Do you have to like, what's your no-go? If we not on the same level with that, no, it's just not gonna work, right? Like what? I ain't about to wait till I get married and then be like, oh, you're not sexually attracted to me, or vice versa. Heck no, y'all, no. Understand.
The other question
being a virgin and not like, or waiting and being abstinent is not saying, look, I'm just going to completely disregard all this sexual intimacy and all that stuff until after the marriage. No, I think there's a healthy conversation, there's a healthy like dialogue that we should be able to have as mature adults, grown men and women, to see if we are compatible sexually, right? I think that's extremely important. And extremely important.
You can tell a lot by kissing too, in my opinion. So there's a reason it's called foreplay. But I will say this: the other half of his question was if they don't want to have sex, marriage. But if you're saying they don't want to have sex because they're not sexually attracted, refer to his answer. But if there's a situation where either person just stops wanting to have sex out of nowhere, to me, that's not just like, oh, okay. That means we're going to see someone. We are going to counseling. We are going to see a therapist, a sex therapist. We are going to exorcist. No, I'm just playing. We're going to figure out what is the issue. Okay, next question.
Because ain't no way I waited.
Why did he get real agitated, y'all? You see that? How agitated he got on that question?
Ain't no way I'm waited this long, and all of a sudden it's like, oh,
that's not what we're not gonna do.
No, because one, I got to get a pro at it, right? I got to make up some lost time, so I gotta get good at it. So
you better take that vacation time.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing some things.
Well, they asking personal questions now. Put it in the box, y'all, because that's the only fair way where I can go in order. Okay,
that's an easy one though. But I'm not in a relationship right now. I'm single.
Okay, well there you go. You got your question answered. Without basing your relationship mainly on sex, how do you ask about size without being disrespectful or tacky?
I mean, I'm not asking about size, so I mean, I think that's a you question.
How big are your walls, man?
I mean, to be honest, like that's, like I said, mind you, I'm not saying you jump out the gate and you talking about that, right? But if you're getting to know somebody and you know, being vulnerable with them and having deep conversations and there's trust there and there's, you know, vulnerability there, Like I said, when y'all are talking about that information, like you're not, seeking to have sex, but if you're talking about that as an informational standpoint, I don't think that's necessarily an out-of-pocket question, right?
Yeah.
I think that's an adult, reasonable question. Now, then you got to go into, hey, is he lying? Is he doing this and that? Yeah, that's one thing, right? But just having that question and that wonder, look, we're human, and that's why I said before, I don't know how y'all want to do it, because that's a real thing, and I feel sorry for some of y'all. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna laugh because there's somebody on here who I always laugh when I see her, because it's a whole other story. But she knows that it's important to ask these questions, and I don't think that you can ask enough questions. And this is what I meant to say earlier, and I'm so glad I remembered just now. You are considering marrying someone
For the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life. There should be no question that you're uncomfortable asking. What I'm saying, I'm not saying that it's not weird to be uncomfortable. What I'm saying is it should not be so uncomfortable to the point I don't ask you.
From finances to sex to raising kids, for everything.
To like everything. There should be no stone left unturned. And so there's an entire book that I have that my dad gave me before I got married. And it covers everything. History, family, preferences, sex. It goes specifics into sex. Like, are you a talker in bed, or do you prefer silence in bed? Like, all this stuff is important. What if you get into it and you're like, yeah, daddy, woo! And he's the type of person who's like, I don't want talking.
Whoa,
and now
stop pineapples. No, this ain't working. No, I feel you.
There's so much that need to be asked. And so many people don't think that premarital counseling is important. If you want to get married, book me. I'll give you all the questions. Okay. So I'm so done. See, she gonna get me in trouble. She gonna have me laughing. Don't start. You know who you are, man. You know who you are. There's a book called "Don't You Dare Get Married Until You Ask These Questions," and it's a series of 500 questions.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
I'm looking at. I'm trying to read the side, but yeah, it's 500 questions. I always say I should get paid because I promoted that book so much, and I don't. But anyway, that book is really important. But you should be asking every single question, because what happens is most people get emotionally attached to the person, and they don't want anyone or anything to make them try to say no. You should actually want holes to be poked in it, because if there is the ability to hole to be poked, you want it to be poked. Well, that's a bad analogy for what we're talking about. But if there's a hole that needs to be poked, you should find out before your marriage, because if you find out after that, oh crap, I didn't know you had $75,000 of debt. There are things that you should find out before. Okay. Let me ask another one. And the person who asked, sex life won't be disappointing, go back and watch it, because we discussed that already. So he gave it a beautiful answer on that. Let's see. Oh, that was a half. Okay. Can you elaborate on the importance of being unequally yoked? Oh, I think we did. So I think that was early.
Yeah,
using wisdom discernment. Okay, be intentional. When dating, how do you mention abstinence and see if the other person is too? Do you want to answer that first? I'll
answer that real quick. I don't think it should be like come off the block. Hey, I'm a virgin or abstinent, right? Hey, my name's nice to meet you, right? No, I don't think you should be doing like that. Shouldn't you be leading with, right? But I do think I like having deep conversations, right? All the shallow stuff, I can miss it. So with me, within the first 3 dates, if we make it that far, we're definitely talking about all those different things, right? And for me, when it comes up, it just comes up. Whether that's the first day or the second day, whatever. When we just start talking about that, of like, oh, hey, what's your spiritual life? How you doing? How you living? X, Y, and Z. Then it comes up, and we can have a mature conversation about it, right? I don't think you necessarily need to say it just on like immediately, because you don't know the person. You don't know if you like the person. You don't know if y'all invested. You don't know if it's going to be nothing. You have no idea, right? So get to know the person and see. But I say within 3 days, because you don't want to get overly invested and then find out, oh, no, they expecting this, or they want to do this X, Y, and Z, right? So I say within that first to third date, just talk about deep conversations in general, and see if y'all are on the same level in all those different aspects, to be honest.
And I like that. The pre-engagement counseling is better than premarital. Yeah. And premarital really covers all of it. It's counseling that you get before you're married. But yes, to do it before you're engaged, if you're considering getting engaged, that should be a good time to do it, because now once you've gotten engaged, it's a little awkward. She is really trying to make me start laughing. Okay. I would say this. When there were questions that were really big deal breakers for me, I was very careful at how I brought it up. I brought it up extremely vaguely. So I would be like, hey, you know, what are your thoughts on intimacy? Like, I will keep it so vague because I like to let that person just show their cards. And so the person will either be like, oh, you know, I like to at least wait for 3 dates, and, you know.
So they don't change based on your response first.
So I'll be letting them speak. Oh, you know, at least 3 dates. I'm not in a rush. I can wait, you know, 6 months. I'm like, oh, okay. Boom. You already know your answer. They're not. I have to bring up abstinence. So a lot of times, especially as women, if you sit back and just let them talk, they will.
Because dudes will talk. Oh, they'll let you know. They'll let you know about it.
Yeah.
But that's with me too, right? So like, if you let me talk, which I'm sure women have before, I'm gonna say that, right? And then you're gonna know the answer, right? So yeah, it works.
I definitely.
All right, we got one more question. Do we have one more?
All right, let me pick a really good one because there's 4 more.
All right.
They said, is it the motion of the ocean or the size of the boat? Goodbye. Okay, we're gonna eliminate.
That's you know, that depends on the woman, I guess.
All right, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let you pick out of these 2.
All right.
Okay. Oh, actually, no, we already answered this one. So we're actually down to 1 now. Okay, because I realized the other answer. Perfect. Okay. Thoughts on some men and women who say that vasectomies are a sin or unbiblical? And that's the last question. So if you guys submit any more, we are not going to be able to answer them. So we've been at it for 2 hours, y'all.
Why would it be a sin, though? I mean, I don't think I've ever heard that, though. I mean,
well, people are saying it's to waste the seed, so.
Right, but I don't think I've ever heard that as being a sin. I don't know. I mean, I mean, certain things. Look, I mean, there's not like necessarily a blueprint of like, you know, everybody kind of knowing that experience. Some things you got to just take to God, right, and kind of ask and see if He gives you kind of conviction on it. I don't think I'll ever. Hopefully, I'll never have to worry about that situation, right? But nah, that's something you would just personally have to ask God and hope and have Him lead you. Because I mean, me, I have no idea.
Yeah.
He hasn't told me that.
And I actually agree that I am gifted like you. I do ask those questions, my deal breaker questions. I don't even wait to the first date, just because I don't even want to waste my time. She said church people govern people's bedrooms too much. You better say that, friend. You better say that. So
that's one thing. I hope I'm whoever I marry. The more I'm kind of just living. I don't know. I never been married or nothing, but I do want to be a little more open with certain aspects of my marriage, because I feel like the Christians that do have thriving and great marriages, I feel like they're closed off. And look, I respect it, I understand, but it allows us as like outside and people just watching to not know all those things, because all the information we get is from the world or culture, and it's like, oh, this is a bad relationship, he cheated on this person, or this happened, or that happened. You don't see, man, like a man and woman loving God and doing the right thing and being outspoken and saying, no, this is how it's supposed to happen. This is what you can do. You know what I mean? So I hope, you know, God willing, like, you know, I can be a lot more vocal and open about that. So, you know, the next generation of people can be like, no, this is how it's supposed to do. This is how it's supposed to look, and X, Y, and Z. Because, man, people are thirsting for God's way, right? The right way of how to like do that and stuff like that. So, yeah, you got to be careful, but I mean, you know, hey.
Maybe there's a way that you can do stuff anonymously. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny, but you know when they do those interviews and some people don't want their identity to be shown, and it's like the side profile. But I really do I think that's why a lot of stuff isn't talked about, because they do want to keep certain things intimate, and you don't want your person to know, like, oh, my wife is a freak or whatever the case may be. But maybe there's a way to do things anonymously, because I totally agree. I think there's a lot of stuff that we don't talk about, especially the Christian community, and it makes people just assume. So I did say that was the last question, but there's one that's really juicy. So I know you have to jump off.
All right, let's get it. Let's get it. We got one more.
Oh, you gonna say it? Okay, because
we got one more.
Like,
might as well we here. We might as well do it
solo. Okay, if you gonna say it, even better. Okay. Okay, so now y'all can't just keep dropping questions because I'll be tempted to answer.
This is the last one. We're gonna do a part two.
I might stay on. You can leave, but I might stay on. Okay, I'm not promising anything. Okay, but one person random. Are you Nigerian? Well, we'll just quickly.
No.
Okay, he's not. All right. So, what happens if you? This is the one that was interesting. What happens if you're with a man who insists on being intimate, even when you don't want to, and he forces it? Okay, so I'm assuming this is husband, and this is why
I hope so.
Right. So I want to say, it's going to be pretty brief, I think, what I'm going to say. This is why, obviously this doesn't help if you're already with him, you're already married. But I want to say this for the people who are not married. Character is the most important thing to look at. Not the bank account, not all. Those are things that can change. Character is the root of who that person is. So even if you're abstaining and you've never had a sexual encounter, so you don't know how he is, I guarantee you that personality feature is going to surface in some other way.
Agreed.
You're going to tell him you don't like a certain joke, and he's going to keep doing it. You're going to say you don't like certain foods, he's going to trick you into eating it. You're going to see somebody who violates your boundaries. You don't have to wait until you get into a physical situation to recognize these qualities. That's why when a lot of people ask me certain questions, I'm like, I'm sure this came up somewhere in the dating process. So that is definitely
red flags.
Yeah, that's definitely a deeper issue. But to acknowledge the person who did ask, and I really hope this is a hypothetical, not your situation, but the Bible says that your body belongs to your spouse. However, nobody should be abusing another person. So if you feel like you are physically being violated, I would recommend going to somebody. I mean, that's the best advice I give. I would recommend, if that person does not take no for an answer, I would recommend going to somebody and seeing what your options are, because that seems like a scary thing. If I say no to someone and I'm forced against my will. And this is why I always want to make sure I'm careful to explain it. You are not supposed to withhold for reasons that we listed earlier. That does not give the man the right to force it upon you. God doesn't even do that. God is God, and he doesn't force his will upon you. So that's why I wanted to answer that before we.
No, I feel you. The co-signed everything you just said. Yeah. No.
Yeah. And the other question went away. I don't know if I accidentally deleted that and see the other one. So I think that's a good wrapping point. Thank you guys for your questions. These were really good questions that you guys submitted. Thank you to everyone. Honestly, this is one of the most poppin' group. Last week I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had the most poppin' chat on YouTube that I'd ever had, and this is Instagram's most poppin' chat. You guys were really lit, so it makes it fun for us. At least I'll speak for myself. It makes it fun for me when everyone is so engaged and part of the conversation. So thank you to you for being on here.
No problem. I appreciate you for allowing me to come on your platform. I really appreciate that. I know you don't have to do that, and I don't take it lightly at all.